I'm Nathan Mauck. I'm an associate professor of finance at the Bloch School. I want to talk a little bit about strengthening a personal balance sheet. So I think the first thing is to actually create a balance sheet. I think it's really helpful to write down everything that we own, our assets, and everything that we owe, our liabilities. And this is actually a rare occasion where I actually follow my own advice. I actually do this every year, and I think it's probably a good idea to do the same. Just writing down what we have and what we owe can really show us the way forward, and it can give us ideas on things we might need to change. And so if we look at the things that we own, the asset side, I think one of the keys is to establish a rainy day fund. So I think it's a really good idea to have about 6 months of our typical pay saved in really liquid investments. And this can allow us to avoid a lot of problems. If we happen to lose a job, if we happen to have an unexpected expense, this can help us absorb that difficulty a little more easily. And so it makes a lot of sense to do this. So that means probably most people do this, right? Well, of course not, right? So only about half of the country has any sort of rainy day fund. And 60% of the US couldn't write a check for $500 if they needed to. So that tells us we're really not getting the rainy day fund for the most part. And it's not limited just to those that have relatively low incomes. Bloomberg had an interesting survey where they found that folks making in the 100 to 150,000 a year range, about half of them had savings of $1,000 or less. So non-retirement savings of less than $1,000. And so sort of shocking. And it shows us that really affecting all income brackets, people are not generally taking the emergency fund very seriously. So I think that's the first thing, is to build one of those up if we don't already have one. Then we can look at longer term savings, retirement savings. And there, we want to have something like 10 to 12 times our income by the time we retire. We can get there usually by saving about 15% per year. It helps a lot if we take advantage of employer matches and tax preferred retirement savings, IRAs, 401ks, that sort of thing. So that's the happier side, the what we own. The less happy side to the balance sheet is the what we owe. And many of us would just like to ignore this side, but that would not be overall probably the best for us. So if you look at what you owe, usually there's going to be things like mortgages, car loans, student loans, credit card balances. So the thing about debt is it can be useful. And of course, as many of us experience the hard way, it can be very, very painful. So debt magnifies things. It makes good things better, but it makes bad things worse. So we want to be a little bit careful with debt. When we look at the debt side of our balance sheet, the thing we really want to be looking at is, are we borrowing for things that are going to help us financially? Are we borrowing for things like a home that could at least increase in value, as opposed to cars, which will almost certainly lose value? So, if we kind of get a sense of good debt and bad debt, it can help us prioritize our way forward. And then finally, coming back to a budget is a good idea. And obviously, if we're making more than we spend, then we can use that excess to either put it in assets, to rainy day funds, to retirement, to getting rid of bad debt. And so it all kind of works together. And I think the best time to do this sort of thing is right now, and then to update it as often as possible so that we can make sure we're making progress and that we get to where we want to go.